Marisol pressed her jacket tighter around her shoulders, resisting the cold breeze trickling through the glass doors of the restaurant. The floor beneath her, rich mahogany, caught the low light in soft gleams. She walked toward the exit of Le Chateau Roux, head bowed, clutching her daughter's tiny mittened hand. She hoped to leave quietly before anyone noticed them. She had insisted to little Lila, a curious 6-year-old with dark curls bouncing with every step, that this dinner was a treat. Just one plate to share, Marisol had said earlier, forcing a soft smile to mask the ache in her chest. She picked the one dish she could afford, a small appetizer of roasted vegetables with a solitary chicken thigh, offered at a discounted price during off hours. It wasn't much, but it was something. A moment of normalcy for Lila. Now, the meal was done. The plate cleared, the bill quietly covered. Marisol raised her head and glanced across the room. In the far corner, by the window overlooking the city lights, sat a lone man. His napkin folded perfectly, his wine glass half full. He had the air of someone who did not belong here merely for dinner. His suit bespoke wealth, his posture quiet command. She did not want to stay any longer than necessary. Lila, however, had other ideas. Her eyes flicked repeatedly toward the man's plate, brimming with food, a tower of seared scallops, a side of truffle mashed potatoes, gilded microgreens scattered like confetti. Lila's stomach had twisted when she saw it. She said nothing. She never did when she felt like this. Instead she stared, open-mouthed fascination, at the bounty before the stranger. Marisol tugged Lila's hand quietly. "Time to go," she whispered. Lila nodded but glanced back once more. The man must have seen the glance, because he turned his head slightly. Their eyes met. Marisol caught the look first, the man raising his glass as though in acknowledgement. Then she saw something, a flicker of recognition, not of who she was, but of what she represented. "Excuse me," the man said, his voice calm and well modulated, drifting over from his table. "Would your daughter like a plate of something else? Perhaps something more?" Marisol hesitated, her heart lurching. She shook her head quickly. "No, thank you," she murmured. "We're just finishing up and—" He raised a hand politely. "Please, I insist." His tone held no judgment, just warmth. He stood and approached their table. The waiter followed him, silent, deferential. The man crouched down to Lila's eye level. "Hi there," he said gently. "What's your name?" Lila, the girl said, gripping her mother's hand. She glanced at the food again. "Well, Lila," he said, smiling, "I couldn't help noticing you admiring my dinner. I was planning to order dessert anyway, why don't you pick something you like?" Marisol opened her mouth, then closed it. She felt heat rush to her cheeks. She thought of leaving, of hurried steps outside into the night cold. But she didn't move. Lila looked up at her mother, uncertain. "Mom," she said quietly. Marisol forced a nod. The man beckoned to the waiter, who came and took Lila's order, a slice of chocolate ganache cake and vanilla ice cream, with strawberries. Marisol watched in disbelief. She glanced at the bill slip the waiter had left, nothing she needed to sign. The man turned back to her. "I'm Marcus," he said simply. "I'll let you enjoy your evening." He moved away, leaving a faint scent of sandalwood behind him. He returned to his table but his eyes remained on them for a moment. Marisol exhaled slowly. She had expected something else. Embarrassment, expectation, charity with strings. Instead, genuine kindness. After dessert, the trio exited together. The valet brought the car. Outside, the night was crisp, lights reflecting in the wet pavement. Lila climbed in and pressed her face to the glass window, watching as Marcus and his driver drove off in a sleek black sedan. Once home, Marisol tucked Lila into bed. The cake crumbs still stuck to the corner of her lips. She combed the child's curls gently and kissed her forehead. "You're going to sleep good," she said, her voice soft. Lila nodded, eyes heavy. "Thanks for the cake, Mom," she murmured. Marisol stayed by her side a moment longer. She swallowed the lump in her throat, a mix of relief, gratitude, and something she couldn't quite name. She thought of the dinner earlier, the looks, the gesture. Marcus had seen them, the single mother and her daughter, through no lens of pity, but understanding. He'd recognized the little girl staring at opportunity. That night, Marisol lay awake for hours, the ceiling above bare, the hum of the city beyond the window faint. She asked herself, what happens now? Would the kindness change anything? She wasn't sure. She had bills to pay, a roommate who expected rent, a job at the coffee shop starting at 6 in the morning. Her daughter's needs and dreams weighed heavily. But tonight, she dared to allow a crack of hope. Weeks passed. At the coffee shop where she worked, Marisol found herself watching the door more often, not for customers, but for Marcus. She wondered what he truly thought of them. She wondered if kindness of that sort demanded a cost. But nothing happened. No call, no invitation, no follow-up. Just the memory of that night, alive and shimmering. One Saturday afternoon, Marcus appeared at the cafe after Marisol's shift was done. He asked if he could buy her a drink. She hesitated, then nodded. They sat near the window, rain tapping the glass. He asked about Lila, about her job, about her dreams. Marisol told him bits and pieces. How she had given everything she could for her daughter's school project. How she sometimes skipped lunch so Lila could have the snack she wanted. How she wanted more than survival, wanted possibility. He listened, truly listened. A conversation followed over weeks. Marcus never made grand offers, but he asked questions, quietly offered small help. A scholarship suggestion, a lead on a part-time course, a connection. He didn't stare at her daughter and pity her. He saw the strength in Marisol, the fierce love she carried. The little girl staring at the plate had awakened something in him, a reminder of his own childhood, of a mother who never let him go hungry, of the dinner table shared with siblings when money was tight. Eventually, Marcus made one proposition. I have a foundation, he said, that helps kids with educational experiences. Your daughter is bright, I'd like to help her go to camp this summer, totally funded. No strings from you. Marisol blinked. She had never accepted this kind of help before. She feared treachery, but his tone promised no entrapment. After months of seeing his genuineness, she said yes. Lila went. She learned to kayak. She came back with stories of fireflies in marshes and stars over water. And one evening, months later, Marcus invited them both to his home for dinner. No fanfare, just 3 people in a modern dining room overlooking the city lights. The table held familiar elegance but also comfort, heirloom wood, soft light, family photographs. The 3 of them sat and ate quietly. Lila told jokes. Marcus listened and nodded. Marisol watched both. She realized something. That kindness did not always demand repayment. That wealth could intersect with humanity without spectacle. And that sometimes, being seen was the greatest gift. When dessert was served, a simple lemon tart with fresh berries, Marisol felt it. For years she had moved invisibly, surviving, hiding, working. Now she sat as an invited guest. Not because someone felt sorry for her, but because someone had noticed her daughter. Because someone had recognized the silent longing in a child's eyes, and said, yes. You belong. As the evening ended, Marcus stood and gave Lila a small silver box. Inside was a bookmark, a delicate silver one, engraved, for the one who sees possibilities. Lila's eyes widened. She clutched it with reverence. Marisol stood holding the coat, thankful and quiet. Outside, the night was cool and calm. The car pulled away. Mother and daughter walked home hand in hand. Later, Marisol would reflect on that moment, the first time she tried to leave quietly, unnoticed. She'd thought invisibility was safe. But she realized now that in the quietest moments, someone might notice. Someone might see the girl staring at the plate. And the gesture of acknowledgement could ripple into something greater. She didn't know what the future held. She still had bills, and still had to work hard. But now she carried something more, the knowledge that kindness could arrive without obligation. And that her daughter's curiosity, her willingness to stare, to dream, wasn't a liability but a spark. The billionaire had seen it, and in seeing it, he invited them into a world they hadn't dared approach. As the night deepened, Marisol tucked Lila into bed again. This time the little girl didn't even need to ask. She pulled the bookmark from her pocket and placed it on the nightstand. I'm gonna read that book now, she said. Marisol kissed her goodnight, whispered softly, sweet dreams, my brave one. And watched her drift into sleep. In the silence that followed, Marisol allowed herself a smile. The plate once stared at. The offer that seemed impossible. The man who noticed. It all sank in, for now, they were no longer invisible. In that simple shift, the acknowledgement of existence, of appetite, of possibility, was a turning point. And somewhere in the dark, the city lights shimmered, the world kept turning. But for a single mother and her little girl, one dinner, one glance, one act of noticing, made everything change.